Oh, hello, everybody. Welcome to Nothing Exempt. You might have thought, man, these guys aren't going to keep it going, but you were wrong. This is something that we're going to keep doing forever. And today's show, with the co host of all co hosts, Nicholas Pardini, is going to be about personality profiles and tests and consulting and all the things that there is in this world to say why you're a different little snowflake than the person next to you. So, Nick, we have both taken the Myers-Briggs.
So
Like
you
that,
don't buy into the idea that, like in Fight Club, that we're the middle age in history, the middle children of history.
I'm not even going to talk about this. I want to just say we both taken Myers-Briggs. At least I took one online for free, whatever that's worth. And I have also taken a disc profile paid for by my company, which who knows what that's worth. And we have both taken the Big Five, the test offered by Jordan Peterson and his website. So, Nick, what do you think is valuable in evaluating somebody's personality? And is it something that should be done? And does it help you in your daily life?
Oh, I think it should be done. Let's just start with that. Personality tests are useful because, based on like if you know what somebody's personality type is, you can kind of know how to deal with them, especially like if you're like a manager at a business. So I could see why companies care about this. I think it matters more in terms of social interpersonal relationships versus business relationships. Like, unless if like you hire somebody who doesn't fit like the role entirely. Like, I wouldn't want to hire introverts to be salespeople, for example.
Yeah, I think if you want to be someone that's got tens of thousands of people in their company and you want to just analyze numbers, develop tests that say people that score well in this way or score in this way, well, or not for good or bad, do well in this role. I think like on a mass, it's fine. But on a personal level, we are all very different. And part of life is learning to deal with other people, and other people are different. So, what you actually score on any given test is completely irrelevant for your relationships. It all depends on your conversations with them and how you have developed as a person.
I think that's incorrect.
So knowing that I'm an introvert or an extrovert, it doesn't change how I interact with one person or not.
It makes me cognizant of my strengths and weaknesses and completely changes the way I react to people. Especially more importantly, if I know their personality type versus versus whether my personality type, because I am who I am, but I can adapt certain things based off of knowing somebody else's personality type.
Well, Nick, you part of life is learning to deal with other people. So yes, you don't need to know their personality type if you can just intuitively figure out what kind of a person they are and how to deal with them,
I
brought
mean,
up from experience.
even
Or you read one of my favorite books, which I have read a lot of times, way more times than I can count, is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's just good life advice, and it has nothing to do with anyone's personality.
I think that book summarizes in pretending to be interested in others.
No, that book says actually be interested in others.
I guess we got different lessons from it.
Yeah, Nick, if you actually do care about other people, it'll get you further in life. That's what that book says. It's care and listen and hear the other person's side. Be empathetic.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess.
like treat others like you would want to be treated. When someone gives you an opportunity to insult them, compliment them.
Yeah.
That's the point of that book, and it will help your relationships in life to follow those basic rules.
So, the next thing is that what is your Myers Briggs type?
Extroverted, sensing, thinking, judging.
ESTJ. And what does Myers Briggs say about ESTJ people? And how common are they in the world?
I haven't read the that those results. So I don't know. Do you know the answers to that?
I don't really. ESTJ is not one that I commonly run into. Um, I know what T and J very well, and E. I'm not really like N versus.
Well,
Okay,
sorry for the listeners. The options are introversion, extroversion, sensing or intuition, thinking or feeling, judging or perceiving.
yeah. So, in terms of like an ESTJ, I mean, I'm reading. It's the executive, is what it's kind of known as.
Cool.
ESTJs are representative of tradition and order, utilizing their understanding of what is right and wrong and socially acceptable to bring families and communities together. Basically, it sounds like old school, like conservative village leader type.
Sounds like me.
Um, they tend to be valued for clear advice and guidance and lead the way through difficult paths. ESTAs often take roles as community organizers and work hard to bring together in celebration of local events and defend traditional values that hold families together.
What do you think about that as a description of me, Nick? You've known me for
Pretty accurate.
a long time.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Um, and yeah, you are more of an extrovert. You're like an extrovert though who doesn't socialize as much as other extroverts I know, but you do have a more outgoing personality when you need to be for sure.
I've always like we talked about this. I think when we talked about the Big Five earlier at a previous show, which is Jordan Peterson's personality profile. Uh, I never thought I was an extrovert because I don't like parties and like big groups of people, but I love people and I love being around people, and that's what makes you an extrovert. It's the once you get over a certain number of people where I can't know everybody there and know the relationships of everybody involved, then I lose my desire to be involved with it. Like go to a some kind of large event of sports or music or something. Like I
But
just
do
have
you
no
feel more
interest in that.
energized socializing and being around other people, or does it tire you out? That's
Oh,
the big
yeah,
difference.
exactly. I would be more energized being around other people.
It's the reverse. I mean, I go to parties and I talk to people, but like the next day I'm exhausted. It sucks all the energy out of me.
Like if I was alone in a house, I would immediately call somebody to talk to them so that I could be at least talking to somebody else, if not around someone else.
No, yeah, I can handle. I could go like a whole week without talking to somebody.
That sounds like it's a bad week.
I did that for 3 weeks when I lived in Italy. Made me listen to podcasts.
Well, podcasts are kind of interesting that you do get this kind of relationship with the podcaster where you hear what they have to say a lot. It's like a one-way dialogue that you interact with, and it's not the same as talking to someone, but it's not the same as being alone.
Oh yeah, ESTJ strengths and weaknesses. Dedicated is a strength. Strong-willed, direct and honest, loyal, patient, and reliable. Enjoys creating order and good organizing. And weaknesses: inflexible and stubborn, uncomfortable with unconventional situations, judgmental, and too focused on social status, and has a hard time relaxing or expressing emotions.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. Uh, I don't have a problem with relaxing. I'm not the uptight type of person, so that maybe is someone else who's the same ESTJ.
Yeah, and so and ESTJs tend to are very clear who they are, and so basically they're good with people who can take them for their word.
Yeah, so what about you, Nick? What about you and your Myers-Briggs?
My Myers Briggs I first took in high school, and the degrees of certain traits have changed over time, but the four letters have remained the same. Uh, and so basically, my personality type is an INTJ, which is known as like the architect or the mastermind. That's about 2.5% of the population, and 90% to 95% of INTJs tend to be men. Those are that's just like So that's, you don't really run into these types of people very often. Um, yeah, and so basically some traits that describe, like, it's introverted is the I, which is pretty accurate for me. I mean, I only like socializing if it is within my family, my good friends, or it serves a purpose. Like if I have, like, I don't randomly just go to some random social event if there's no goal in mind. I get bored and tired. And even when I do go to a fun party where I have a lot of friends or something, the next day I'm just out of it. Um, Intuitive, um, it's if we're intuitive versus sensory, I kind of able to develop my ideas just more through my own inner thoughts versus like direct physical experience. It's just a more intellectual type perspective. Thinking, similar, like I'm not really that empathetic, which is more the feeling type. This you're similar in this way as well. And then judging, it just, I mean, you and versus perceiving, which is the other one, where yeah, you make more bold, definitive claims one way or the other and make judgments. Um, in terms of what INTJs are known for, INTJs tend to be strategic thinkers. Um, it's a challenge for them to find like-minded individuals who are uh, able to keep up with them in terms of intellectualism. I generally play life like a game of chess, which I could say I kind of do that actually. Um, they're imaginative, decisive, um, ambitious yet private, but not necessarily the intellectually curious, but they're not necessarily the best at executing or the most practical. Um,
Yeah, I'd agree that you have problems in the operations side of things, but you have a mind that follows what you've been saying, where you're very intellectually well thought through. And yeah, I'd say most of that seems right.
yeah, another thing, the paradox of INTJs, they're able to live with glaring contradictions that make perfect sense to them from a rational perspective.
Oh, so where are you where are you a living contradiction, Nick?
I'm an idealist and a cynic at the same time.
So you're like libertarians are great, but their ideas are never going to work out.
Yeah, that's like a good example. I mean, yeah, I have this extreme skeptical side on things, yet I still really want to try to hope I can make a difference. Like, I'm probably the most like, even though I tend to have like Catholic faith, religious wise, I tend to be a hard nosed skeptic as some of like these leading atheist types on just about everything else. Um,
Yeah, you are a super skeptic, and I think I'm a skeptic. But yeah, you do take the cake on being a skeptic on pretty much everything.
then INTJs also don't really, once they make up their mind on something or have established a principle, they're not good at changing it.
I kind of feel that way too. Like if there's something that I haven't made a decision on yet, it's a new experience to me, like some kind of new technology or new thought in my head. I usually go real hardcore. Like I hadn't thought about economics at all going into college. And then I went through a year of just reading nothing but economics and made up my mind on what was right and what was wrong. And then since then, it's been that's it. I'm done. I don't need to reinvestigate that chapter of my life. I know what right and wrong are for that.
Yeah, I mean, I do that like with a new topic every 2 to 3 months. Like the last one I did was on autism disorder and my views on that and how society should treat it. And now that I've done all the homework on it, I have my opinions on it, which we'll have to save for another show. But yeah, strengths and weaknesses of INTJs. The strength is quick and imaginative and strategic minded, high self confidence. I don't know if I have that high self confidence. I think I probably have an average level of self confidence. But
I don't know enough people and their levels of self confidence doesn't have any idea what average is and what above average is. I feel like we hang out in a circle that might be skewed towards more self-confidence than average.
Yeah, I mean, I consider like a highly self-confident person as somebody who never thinks they're wrong and will always push, like a salesman, will always make the call and will never feel down.
Yeah, that's definitely not me. I know that I can be wrong. I'm
Like
human.
I'm like that's why I think of a really self-confident person is somebody who never believes they're wrong and somebody who never lets any sort of external circumstances change their mood. I've met a few people like that. I'm not that way. I mean, I'm working on it. I've gotten better in my life at being less affected by external factors, but I guess I'm not perfect.
How are
Um,
you on making decisions? How long does it take you to make a decision? Especially like a big one, like let's say buying a car, something that's not emotional or maybe shouldn't be emotional. Like
takes me
how do you
takes me
do
a
that?
while. Takes me a while. Probably takes me 3 to 4 weeks to make a big decision.
So do you research it for 3 to 4 weeks and then make a decision in 5 minutes?
Well, it depends. Like if it's like buying like a car, yeah, I'll do the homework, and then once I've done the homework, I'll sit and think. I'll sleep on it for a couple days, and then make a decision. Maybe 3 or 4 weeks is a little long. It's probably more like 1 to 2 weeks.
See,
And
like the way that I operate is so if I were to buy a car, I would do homework on what I want for a while, like maybe a month. But then I know exactly what I want and I would go out looking for it. And if it takes me 3 weeks, that's fine. But I would make the decision on to
what
buy
about
the car or not.
economic decisions? Economic decisions, I can make a lot quicker than like big personal decisions, like moving to another city or choosing specific relationships or um, like a job choice or something like that. Nothing that's not like a pure purchase consumer decision.
I've made a lot of decisions about moving to other cities. It's a hard one to make, and I don't you don't know if you're making the right one or not. And having made those decisions, I don't know if I've made the right one or not. It's all a matter of like weighing what you think are right and wrong there, and there's no real right answer. So those are really hard, but they I still make them pretty firmly and
And how much does
quickly.
peer pressure influence your decision making?
If you remove my wife and you're just talking about other people, I don't care at all what they have to say. Like, my wife's got a lot of weight on my opinions and my decisions, and we make decisions together all the time. But if you're talking about like you, Nick, you could tell me don't do that, and I'd be like, okay, I've known you forever and I trust you, but I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna do what I think is best.
Yeah,
Is that offensive to you?
not really.
If
Yeah.
I was like really hardcore saying don't date that girl and you liked her, would you just listen to me?
Well, I'd look up why. I'd ask you why. That's the thing. When people like try to influence my decisions, um, if they can't give me a good reason why, I ignore them. If they give me a reason why, then I think about it.
Well, moving back to other personality tests, do you know anything about DISC? Because I barely know anything about DISC. I've taken the test, and that's about it.
No, I mean, I took the test. I got 54% D.
There's like different words for different areas. And the only thing I got out of it is that like everybody I worked with was on the opposite side of the map from me.
Oh man, I'm just reading the rest of these INTJ strengths and weaknesses, and they almost describe me to the T. Like, yeah, like the rest of them are like independent, decisive, hardworking, determined, open-minded, jack of all trades, and the weaknesses are arrogant, judgmental. I don't know if I'm that arrogant. Brian, you're my friend. You've known me for years. Am I arrogant?
Sometimes.
Okay. Judgmental. Yeah, I totally
You're
judgmental.
not all the time. But Nick, also, you are not the jack of all trades.
Well, I can't. Intellectually, I am. I know a
No,
lot.
you're not.
No.
Nope. You're intellectually very strong in some areas and extremely weak or completely absent in others.
Oh
And
yeah,
it,
practical matters like handiwork. I mean, the most complicated handy thing I could probably do is change a light bulb.
Okay, but intellectually, I think that you would be bad at coding,
Oh, I can't code.
which is all intellectual.
Yeah, I mean,
You
I'm
are
right.
incapable. You're incapable. So, like a jack of all trades. Let's name all the trades: carpenter, plumber, electrical.
Yeah,
Like
you're right. I'm not a jack. I'm very specialized.
you're extremely specialized, and but what you specialize in, you're really good at.
Yeah.
But
So I
that's the
guess
opposite of a jack of all trades.
that's wrong then. Um, I mean, yeah, and then overly analytical, that's another weakness. Probably pretty true. I don't really I don't put much empathy in terms of my decision making. Um, and maybe I also expect people to be maybe overly analytical with their decisions dealing with me. Um,
Dude, I think you and I might probably have this in common. Do you have problems with people who live their whole life through their emotional lens?
I'm kind of used to it because I grew up with a lot of women in my family.
Well, me, I mean, I had two sisters too. I just, it's hard to relate to somebody who refuses to have a discussion with you about whatever the actual facts of the matter are.
Well, you have to deal with them differently.
Okay, explain, Nick. How do you deal with somebody who can't live in reality?
Well, that's a topic I'd want to save for maybe a future podcast.
Okay,
Um, but
and I will say that my sisters are not that way. Both of my sisters, whatever their problems are in life, are extremely realistic on a lot of things.
yeah, I mean, people would argue I'm not realistic.
Oh, that's perception. Yeah, I can throw that insult at anybody. I'd be happy to throw that insult to my sisters, but they are realistic people.
I mean, I've kind of tend to be a little on the stubborn side of things, and a lot of people claim that I'm not realistic, but I've managed to get things done nonetheless. But I can be very realistic on other things. It's weird.
Well, it's the lens of experience. Like you don't know what realistic is until you've actually lived through that experience, and then you know.
Yeah, and then the last thing is for INTJs is that um, they are loath highly structured environments and blindly following precedents without rules, and tend to be clueless in interpersonal relationships that require a lot of reading between the lines.
Yeah, that's so hard when people ask you to read between the lines. Like, I'm not going to. I'm
Yeah,
going to fail at trying to do that. I promise.
well, but that's like society. That's all human interactions is reading between the lines.
I don't know. I can kind of pick up when people are really angry or really happy or like their emotions, but if they're trying to tell me something and hint at it, it's not going to get through this very thick skull of mine.
For me, it's one way or the other. Either I miss it completely, or I sense something that's not there. I'm too sensitive to that kind of stuff because I've read a lot of books and I've dealt with a lot of people giving me double speak over my life that I can I sometimes read signs that aren't actually there.
Yeah, it's really hard. Which I would never assume that it is there. I would just always assume like if they wanted to tell me that I should do this or not do this, then they would use those words.
No, that's generally a faulty assumption,
Well, they'll learn the hard way that I'm not going to pick it up.
especially in California of all places. This is like the capital of, and Asia was this way too when I lived there. Those are the two places or cultures where there's the most that a lot was being there's a lot more being unsaid than said.
Very happy to be out of there. It's a beautiful world, and I'm glad I'm not in that dark corner of it.
Yeah, the most direct place I really went to is the Northeast of the United States.
Oh, that's true about the New Yorkers that I've met. That's so true.
And Europe's pretty. German speaking Europe is also pretty direct.
Yeah, and the what's funny about that analogy or the whatever it is that the New Yorkers are really funny people and the Germans have no humor.
Yeah, they're both all very direct though and straight to the
They're
point.
both direct, but one set has humor and the other set doesn't.
Yeah. In terms of personnel, so yeah, basically, yeah, we have some things that are similar. Others are different. We're both TJs. I didn't realize. I thought you would be like an ENTJ. Actually, I'm surprised you had an S.
Can you describe to me the differences between sensing and intuition again?
Um, Let me get a more formal definition, because but my general um, take on it is that sensory is just like sensing is more just like paying attention to like physical reality and the tangible, as whereas intuitive is more like pattern recognition endogenously through your thoughts. And basically, you solve your problems by thinking through them rather than through experience, and you learn things through thinking through them versus doing.
Okay, so sensing. I remember events as they actually happened. I solve problems by working through facts until I understand the problem. I am pragmatic and I look to the bottom line. N. I remember events by what I read between the lines. I solve problems by leaping between different ideas and possibilities. I'm interested in doing things that are new and different. I like to see the big picture to find out about the facts, then to find out about the facts. I trust impressions, symbols, metaphors. Dude, I am so an S.
Yeah, I'm more of an N.
Yeah, I
I
won't.
have some S parts, like probably the first um, the first bullet point and the third bullet point, like the bottom line approach and the snapshot part, but the rest of it, I'm definitely more in.
Yeah, I would trust experience a lot more than words and symbols.
Well, I mean, that's how. I mean, this is like my whole life, Brian. It's why I built like a good knowledge set. Is yeah, I've had a lot of life experiences, but I've also learned a lot of the equivalent of experiences by reading other people's stories and events and them and advice from predecessors, so I don't have to make those same mistakes.
That's just being wise. I try to do that too, Nick.
I mean, I've done some stupid things in my life too, so it's not entirely the case, but yeah, I learn a lot. I know a lot about the world and like things that I've never experienced myself and probably will never experience myself through reading.
Me too. That's the wonderful thing about reading is learning and finding out wisdom from other people.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't trust my experience more. Because if I had the experience, I know what it is, and I would trust that more than
Yeah,
what
but
other
we're only
people.
30. Like, how much experience do we have?
In some areas, a lot. For some areas, a little.
Yeah.
But more to be acquired. There's a lot of people at 60 that have less experience than me in a lot of different areas.
Well, yeah, I also work in a more intellectual type profession where I think you need more intuition versus because past experience, especially in something like the markets where um, there's a lot of like multi-tail degree moves and inconsistencies and changing correlations, your previous experiences may not be valid.
Yeah, that's true that sometimes your experience is just no longer relevant, and that's a bummer. You have a lot of experience with DOS or Microsoft XP. You learn a lot of things about stuff that just goes out the window, and that's a bummer.
Yeah. So I think that, and then the extroversion introversion thing. Um, yeah, I tend to like I've noticed that a lot of my friends who have taken um, Myers Briggs tend to be in the TJ category, like thinking and judgmental types.
Well, that makes a lot of sense that you have something in common with everybody that you're friends with.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed. Um, and then in terms of like and also like intuitives, I don't really know that many people who've taken tests of who are like F feeling types and P type and like perceiving types. I mean, I probably do know them, but I don't run into them probably as much as like the average person does.
Well, looking at judging and perceiving, one of the bullet points that I'm kind of the reverse on is I plan work to avoid rushing just before our deadline. The other one says I am stimulated by a deadline. I wouldn't say I'm stimulated by a deadline, but I definitely know how to procrastinate.
I used to have a big problem procrastinating in high school. And I wrote a paper about Napoleon my freshman year in high school, and I did it the last minute on Super Bowl Sunday, and the paper was due that Monday. And I didn't work on it for the previous 3 weeks beforehand, and I got 100% in terms of the quality of the content, but I had 30 typos, and you get one tick off for every typo, so I got a C- on the paper.
Oh man, totally off topic, but totally connected to that is one time I had a a statics test in college when the teacher had said at some point, and I had missed it, that if you miss the hat, which is like this symbol over the top of an I, J, or K for vectors, every time you miss that symbol, I'll take a point off a test. And she had said that, and I just missed the bus. So there was 3 problems. I got them all right, and I got a 0 on the test because I had missed every single hat on the entire test. And there was enough points on there to add up to a 0. Probably more than that. I think she just like stopped at some point and wrote 0. But it ended up working out because she said if you get a better grade on the final than you have in the class, then you can have that grade in the class. And so I passed the final and passed the class. But man, you just miss one little note like that, or you have typos, it can just ruin your grade. Well, the content and quality were right on.
Yeah. Do you have any on that note? Do you have anything else to say about this category before we wrap up the show?
Oh, guys, so I'm just going to let you in on something about Nick. When Nick moves topics, it's because he's bored with the conversation at hand. Every time. 100% of the time. He's moving on to the next thing because like what was just said was super boring to him, and he went off into his own world someplace else, and he came back and said, okay, moving on. Is that true, Nick, about your personality?
Yeah. I mean, once I don't care, I can check out. I could check. I mean, it's pretty like binary. Like I'm having problems. Like sometimes, like when I'm out, like visiting like my dad for dinner with my siblings, or at an event, and I'm just ready to go. I just abruptly say, especially if I'm giving other people a ride home, it's like, yeah, it's time to leave. They're like, what? Can you give me some time? I'm like, no, I'm ready to go now.
They're like in the middle of a conversation they're all enjoying, but Nick isn't enjoying it. Everybody, I have something to say. We are leaving.
Yeah, I've gotten a few complaints from that from my sisters and my brother over the years.
Well, hopefully they can learn to say more interesting things to you.
I don't know. I was just ready to go home. Like it's not like I'm bored of this conversation. It's just I have like an oven beeping that I had to preheat for a roast that I gotta make for dinner.
Your brain has left the party and has left for something else, and it's time to go. And with that, everybody, I would just say that thank you for listening to this podcast. We really appreciate it when you listen to us, and we also appreciate it if you would write us a review on iTunes. Be thoughtful, considerate, whatever, or don't.
And don't be boring.
Don't be boring. And if you want to reach out to us, the best way to do that is to go to Twitter and type in Nothing Exempt and tweet at us, or go to reddit.com and our own subreddit, Nothing Exempt, and write a post. We'll read it. We'll talk with you. And if you're ever in Denver, feel free to reach out. I'll come meet you. Say hi. I don't know if Nick's going to make that same offer, but I'll give him an opportunity to right now, and then he's going to say goodbye.
Yeah. I mean, if any fans are in Southern California, it's depending on my schedule. I could be free, but I'm pretty busy lately.
He's rejecting you before you ask.
I'm being completely honest. I mean, I don't have celebrity hubris or anything like that. We're not famous.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for listening. Until next time.